Hey there, SCT friends. In our spring 2023 issue, we featured the beautiful Threads of Kindness collection from Concord and Ninth in our 10 Most Wanted. And I wanted to show you that I'm working with all of these products today. I'm using the die, the stamp, and the stencil pack. They all work together so beautifully to create gorgeous cards. I'm using some new colors from Concord and Ninth: honeycomb, tide pool, and nectar, along with two of my other favorites, sea glass and grapefruit. With all of these products, I'm going to show you three different ways to create threads of kindness cards according to how much time you have and how much effort you want to put in. I have three A2 card panels. Those are sized at 4¼ by 5½, and they're just nice, smooth white. Those are actually from Scrapbook and Cards Today, so be sure to check that out in the SCT shop. The first thing I'm going to do is die cut three different panels using this Threads of Kindness die. So the great thing about this die is you have two different pieces. One has all of the dots in the center, the other has the outline. So according to how much time you have, you can choose to do the dots and feature those, or just do the outline and stencil in the rest of the design. So right now I'm going to use the dots. That's the biggest plate in the center. And you just position the outline around that, and you can see that it fits in really nicely there so that it cuts out the entire design. So those two work perfectly together. I'm just taking off my tape really easily there to make sure that it doesn't rip. So you saw that there is no waste with an A2 panel in this die. There's just literally the outside. So I'm going to place that in here again to do the second card panel with the dots this time. And the third time, I'm just going to use the outline, so no dots on this one. This is going to be our easiest card. All we have to do on this one is use our blending brushes to add some ink. So you'll see there, no dots on this one. So I'm grabbing my stick and stamp mat from Brutus Monroe and adding the dotted panel first to the center. So I'm starting with the first stencil, and this is the one with the open flowers. So you'll see that there are four stencils. The open flowers are the largest, then you have the half flowers, then you have the open leaves, and then the half leaves. So I'm starting with the open flowers first, and I'm going to use the lightest colors here. So we're going to start with nectar. I'm using my Gina K Designs blending brushes, and for most of what I'm doing today, I'm going to be using the smaller brushes, the tiny ones. Those work really well so that you don't have to mask off with this stencil. So you want to really lightly color in the hearts on this one. So I'm just doing the hearts in nectar, and then I'll go back and do a different color for the flowers. I really love this nectar color. It's such a pretty pinky peach color. It is really lovely, really beautiful. And the reason why I chose this color scheme today is really because I love any combination of pink, teal, and yellow. Really love it. So you saw there that I used a paper towel to just wipe off my stencil in between colors. You do not want your yellow mixing with nectar to give you like a weird yellow color. So this is honeycomb that I'm using here, and just lightly coloring that in, trying my best not to add too much ink because we do have another layer going in here. And so that's why you see me tapping off on the bottom of my glass mat there. To make this a really easy process, I'm using the ink stand to hold my ink, which will help not give me any smudges on my hands. So I'm going to line up the next stencil, and this is the half stencil. You'll see half of the flower, half of the heart will be lined up. And the easiest way to line these up is with the dots. So you'll see that the dots that you die cut will line up perfectly in the center of those hearts, but it's also easy to see around the edge of your die cut piece that you have about an eighth of an inch around all sides from where you line up your stencil. So once you actually lay it down and line it up, you will see that it's really easy to get it perfectly lined up. So I'm just wiping off my stencil before I go to the next color. That was grapefruit that I used there. Now I'm just using honeycomb again, because with honeycomb you can actually go in a lot darker. I tapped off before, which gave me a lighter hue, and now I'm not tapping off. So look how dark that color is. This is such an easy stencil to use and really fast. Now we're going to use our full leaves, and again you'll see that the center of the leaves line up perfectly with those dots. And so for this stencil I'm going to use a really light layer of sea glass. I'm going in with my big Gina K blending brush because I don't have any other color that I'm using on this one. So using sea glass will put down a really beautiful greenish teal color on the bottom of these leaves. I just love the stencil set. You could definitely use this without the holes. I'm going to show you just how pretty it can be if you don't want to put in the extra effort of using embroidery floss and sewing on your card front. Isn't that nice? And now we're going to use the half leaf, and I'm going to use Tide Pool, which is, oh my gosh, one of my new favorite colors. It is such a beautiful, like darker teal. It's a perfect accompaniment to sea glass. So I'm using that one to give you that darker hue on half of the leaves. And again, not tapping off on this one because I want you to see that darker teal on the leaf halves. Isn't that so pretty? I just love the way that turned out. Okay, next I'm going to use the panel without the dots, and you can see there that positioning it just so will give you that eighth of an inch around where your openings are to the outside of that die cut piece. I'm going to literally do the exact same thing. We're doing all three card panels in the same colorway here. So I'm just going to do exactly the same thing as I did on the last one. So now I have two panels, one with holes and one without, and I actually did a third panel, one with holes, off of camera. So the first panel I have with the die cut holes, I'm actually going to stitch in. So this is called the Threads of Kindness bundle. So let's try to use some needle and thread to make it really special. I grabbed this color match chart from the Concord and Ninth website. And so I have color matched the grapefruit, and that's actually what I'm starting with here. And so I'm just using a basic back stitch for this one. Basic back stitch is the easiest stitch that you can do. You're literally going up through one hole, down through the next, and then up through the next hole and back down into the previous hole. If you haven't hand stitched before, this is the easiest stitch to learn, and you can check it out on here on YouTube, find a tutorial for how to do that. I'm not worrying so much about what the back looks like. I am going through and making those stitches on the back really long. If you do any kind of needle crafting, you know that you like to make the back look as neat as the front. I'm not worried about that here. I am just trying to get it done quickly. So I stopped with my grapefruit thread there after I was done with the first half, and then I'm going back in again to do the other half so that I'm not wasting too much thread. Next up, I'm using the thread that coordinates with Stardust, and I find that that worked really well for honeycomb. And so it's kind of like a citrine yellow color. And so I'm going to do the yellow flowers next. Again, using a basic back stitch here, it really is the best one to do. I actually used 3 threads of embroidery floss too. With 3, you can still see the holes clearly. I think I could have gone to 4, but since I started with 3, I just kept going with it. Now the hardest part for the flowers is that you can't keep going to the next flower without seeing it on the edge. And so I'm having to tape the edges of my yellow down and then go back, cut my thread, and then start again on a new yellow flower. So the yellow was the part that actually took the longest, but still not too bad. If you had something to binge watch, I would suggest doing this while you watch Netflix or a movie, and you'll not even notice how long it takes. The last embroidery thread that I'm using here coordinates with sea glass. You'll find that on the DMC color match chart provided by Concord and Ninth. And I'm just going around and doing all of the leaves in this beautiful color. And this is the one that has the most holes. So this is the one where you're gonna probably need 2 pieces of thread to get all of the way around the card panel. But again, not hard at all. You just have to figure out kind of your way around the leaves so that you waste less thread. Now that my first stitch panel is complete, I want to show you what you can do with this die cut with the holes if you do not want to stitch. And this is a simple and easy way. I have a piece of foiled gold paper here. Many manufacturers make this. This is just one that I had, a spare one that I had in my stash. And I'm using the outline die here to cut out this panel in gold foil. I'm using my Spellbinders Platinum 6 to die cut that out. This is really a great way to use this set if you don't have the time or the inclination to stitch, and it turns out so beautifully. You definitely want to make sure that your tape is pulled off gently there so you don't mess up your foil surface. Then all you have to do is glue the blended panel to the gold foil panel, and I'm using Gina K Designs Connect glue here to do that. You want to make sure you go really easy on that glue because you don't want it to come out through the holes at all, because even though this glue does dry clear, you will still see it on a foiled surface, so make sure you just use it very sparingly here. So now I'm just going to line these 2 die cuts up, and you can see there when you hold your panel at an angle that you can see that beautiful gold foil shine through those holes. So even though you don't have that added stitching like here, you still have a really beautiful element with that gold foil behind. And then you have your panel that's plain, so you don't even have to do any stitching or foil, you can just ink blend. So to finish off these cards, I am using dimensional foam tape from Scrapbook Adhesives by 3L to put them on my colored panels, and I'm using grapefruit, honeycomb, and tide pool panels. To this card I added a stamped sentiment in the center because I needed a birthday card, and this is the Delicate Blossom stamp set. On this one I added the Threads of Kindness So Very Kind sentiment, and I die cut that label twice, one time out of white cardstock so that I could stamp So Very Kind, and the second time I used the gold foiled paper to die cut that again, and then I offset those, adhering those together so that you could see that gold foil as a shadow below it. I'm adding some more dimensional adhesive here. I don't want any parts sagging, especially around the edges, so I'm really getting that dimensional adhesive in here. And then I'm going to adhere this to that card front adding the "so very kind" sentiment to the center, and you can see that beautiful gold foil just shines through those holes and on the sentiment. Now for this one, this is the plain one that we didn't do any stitching or any holes in. We just did the ink blending and it's still beautiful. So I wanted to do a nice sentiment for the center. So I'm adding some Tide Pool cardstock here, and I die cut the thank sentiment 3 times using honeycomb paper, and I put them all together, and you can see my head is in the way here because I'm trying to make sure that it's lined up perfectly. So that was a really dimensional sentiment. So 3 layers of thanks. So look how you can do a really simple just ink blended card. You can die cut it with the holes and back it with foil, or you can go the extra step and stitch in your card. It's just according to how much time you want to spend, how much effort you want to put in, but they all produce gorgeous cards. So this one bundle, the Threads of Kindness bundle by Concord and Ninth, includes dies, stencils, and a stamp, and they all create such beautiful cards together. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this card making video. Be sure to subscribe to the Scrapbook and Cards Today YouTube channel to see more, and check out today's blog post where you will find the Threads of Kindness products linked in my post. Thanks so much for watching, and happy creating!